Welcome to the London Property Podcast, your trusted guide through the complex and ever-evolving world of London real estate. We help clients manage, protect, and grow their property wealth by connecting them with the right expertise from finance, law, and tax to construction, design, and strategic advice. Through conversations with industry leaders, we bring you clear, practical insight into the trends, challenges, and opportunities shaping the market. Let's dive in.
Welcome to London Property. I'm your host, Farnaz Fazaipour. And today we're doing our market update for 2026, the first quarter of 2026. And I'm delighted to welcome back to the show, Silvina Paz. Welcome back.
Hi, Farnaz. Thank you.
Good to have you here. So we're going to dive right in and ask you to tell us about what you think is going on in the market at the moment.
Very interesting question. I will also like to know what's going on in the market right now, because I think nobody knows. That's the only certainty we have at the moment. No, I think that what is happening is that the UK has finally caught up with globalization. So something happening somewhere else that has nothing to do with the UK has an impact here. We are living through 3 wars at the moment, and one of them is having a massive impact in the economy and obviously in the property market. And it has mostly to do with the uncertainty that it brings. Now, that does not mean that people are not buying or are not moving or anything like that. No, but it means that everything is taking much longer. People really want to know what is happening, or, where they stand before they are committing. Because, obviously, if you have lost 30% of your money in the stock market, it's not like you're going to be rushing to buy a house unless you actually really need to. And then the other thing that is happening is that I guess all of us last year, which was dreadful, thought, okay, 2026 is going to be calm.
Nice, fresh year.
Nice. Let's go back to normal. And that lasted just a few weeks. And we saw a flurry of activity early in the year. All those people that, started looking at the end of last year ended up doing something. But there are still quite many, I would say, that, didn't do anything last year because of the uncertainty that the UK government created, and they were, waiting for 2026. And they just kind of started, and boom, we have a war. And we have all this uncertainty that nobody knows how it's going to affect us. So I don't think anybody knows what the situation is. We just have to go day by day. And as I said, it doesn't mean that people are not interested or not buying or not moving. It is just that we are in a new territory.
And you don't think that the war is having an impact on people's feelings of having somewhere dependable to put their money or to come back to? Or it's too early to tell, really?
I think it's too early to tell because, by the same token, you would say London property, central London property, because zone 3, 4 is a very different story. But central London property, which used to be considered a safe haven of investments, well, now we are seeing, yes and no, because we are seeing around 20%, prices down from their peak, and in some cases even more. So it's not a safe haven. If you lose 20% or 30%, it's as risky as a stock market investment. That's the reality.
Gonna have to disagree with you there. And I tell you why. Because I think the reason that we're losing 20% in the market is because of the correction that I'd like to say was deliberate. Because if you look back to when the government started to tackle the market in 2013, all the decisions they made from there was to correct the market because it was becoming completely out of reach for the locals. And the question really, I think, is that, yes, the market is definitely down, 20% from some of those peak purchase times.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that if you were a sensible buyer, buying for the right reasons, then you potentially haven't been exposed to that. But there was a lot of people who bought with really big debt, or they bought because they thought, well, if this guy gets that much, I'm going to get 10% more. And, the prices were kind of escalating without natural demand. So I wonder whether that 20% that we're talking about is 20% correction of the last 10 years or 10, 15 years versus actually the asset has become an asset that collapses.
Well, I think in all markets where it comes to prime property, anywhere in the world, there is always some sort of, the market gets hot.
Yeah.
And so people buy, and there are all those reasons. With property, there is an element that many people always feel that even if they lose 20%, it's a tangible asset. So there is an emotional side to property that you don't necessarily find in other asset class. And I guess, that is the same reason people own gold, and everybody goes to gold whenever there is a chaos, because it's something that you feel, okay, if there is anything happens, I can sell this. To a certain extent, I think it's similar with property. And so, whether I think the other thing that is really important at the moment is that this is still a top 10 global economy. Things are not good, not great by any stretch of the imagination, but there is still a lot of money in this country. And that's why most of, the majority, the big chunk of the people buying are locals. And they know that at this moment, this is a good time to get into property because perhaps this is their time. They've been patiently waiting 15, 20 years. They saw how things were getting out of hand, let's say, and now they can come back and get, some really good assets, because there are some really good assets, I think, out there, especially discreetly out there for sale.
You're listening to the London Property Podcast. We help clients manage, protect, and grow their property wealth. If you find this conversation useful, don't hesitate to get in touch. Now, back to the conversation.
What do you think are the benefits of actually investing in the UK right now?
I think the most important time of investing anything is when you get in. So by that standard, this is a good time to get into the market because, as I said, there are some good things out there. So potentially you could get in and get hold of an asset, at a very good price, something that previously probably you couldn't. And, and that is what if you have a long-term horizon, because in the next 3-4 years,
you're holding.
You have to be a holder. So, but if you are in here for like the 10-year plus, then this is a very good time to be looking at the London property market.
And do you still think it's a good investment for international buyers?
Yes, I think it's a good investment for international buyers, provided that what you buy, it's something good. And because not all properties are good.
Yeah, well, I mean, as the saying goes, right? You make your money when you buy.
Exactly.
And that's the opportunity to buy well.
Opportunity to buy well.
Yeah.
To buy well, and there are some interesting, properties out there.
You have to dig, in the sense that they're not just going to be advertised on the websites. You need to actually have a focused reason. What are you going after, and then uncover that market.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what we are seeing, and is expected, I guess, at this time, is there is an increase in off-market gray area properties, especially because of that reason. So it's very likely that if you are after one of these, good assets in the good location at the good price, They are not going to be publicly advertised to the world.
I think one thing I've noticed is that when someone's got a really special property, they've become more willing to sell it now.
Yes.
Because before they wouldn't have even been willing.
They wanted to hold it.
Whereas people are now actually willing. And those type of properties are properties that literally come up once in a generation. So, suddenly if that guy's willing to sell his first floor lateral overlooking Cadogan Square, he would have not absolutely even considered it 5 years ago, 10 years ago, whatever.
Yeah.
What about the question of London versus Dubai? Are you seeing, because obviously we've got agents who work both markets that we work with, and this has been a real topic of discussion. Should I invest in London? Should I invest in Dubai? Even I had a client who was looking to buy a rental investment, and after literally uncovering everything in her price range, she then decided, I'm just going to go buy in Dubai, and was very happy with what she'd gone and done in Dubai. But have you had any experience of that London versus Dubai?
I think nobody knows what is going to happen with Dubai. Probably it's going to be a little bit like what happens in Hong Kong. So the Hong Kong market is boom and bust constantly. Now people know it's not what they were sold. We may benefit because many of these investors, even Middle East investors, may want to now have something safe and stable here in the UK, just in case. This is what I think.
And have you noticed a certain nationality beyond what's going on at the moment in the world and in the Middle East? But have you noticed a certain nationality that is coming up and looking at London, investing in London? There seems to be, a number of them. Is there a pattern?
Well, everybody always talking about the Americans. I don't think there are as many Americans. If anything, I think the American scene has kind of calmed down a bit because, they can, if they don't like New York because of the mayor, they can go to Florida and they pay no taxes. There is no need to move to another country, even if you don't like Trump. But no, I think, what we are seeing is big chunk of the buyers are British who are back buying. And we see the Americans, we see the Indians. And funnily enough, we still see some Europeans, particularly Germans and Italians. I've seen quite a few Italian buyers lately, and I was surprised. And I think because they know this is like a dip, and London will always be London. And that's why they also see it as the opportunity, perhaps, to get something really good, which probably they couldn't get before, at a price that makes sense, that is kind of in line with what they expect.
Generally speaking, what we're concluding is that deals are happening, but there's no sense of urgency. There's local buyers. We don't really know the effects of the war on our market yet, but potentially it could have some medium, long-term effects on people thinking it's quite secure there. I actually have some UAE investors who were liquidating in London and wanting to invest everything over there. So I wonder whether that's a conversation to maybe get an update on.
I think that, yeah, definitely, because if I were them, I wouldn't, I would reconsider certainly my investments
versus personal use.
Especially because I mean, there will definitely be a correction in the Dubai market and the UAE in general.
And on the subject of corrections, do you think we're done, or do you think there's going to be another blip here?
Let's see. We don't know. I don't think we are done.
Going back to my own theory that the market has quarterly cycles, I was saying that there'll be another correction because people who couldn't sell came on the rental market, but all those people who were renting have also gone. But actually, we will get a surge, I think, of rentals, because rentals is a commitment that people can make without having to make lifetime decisions. So it's possible that actually people could still hold on. So we may be at where it's at. Maybe we've had those corrections and, it's now or never to try and find that deal?
As long as we have economic uncertainty and prices are going to go up and mortgages are going to go up later this year, last year we had the budget in November. This year we have midterms election in November, and they are not in this country, but we are, a consequence. Whatever happens there is definitely affecting here. So those things, the mortgage, the prices, they will have an effect on the market confidence. And if the stock market doesn't kind of recover again, if you lost 30% of your portfolio because of the market crisis or whatever, you are not going to be rushing to, pay full price on anything.
You're going to feel a lot less generous towards your housing budgets.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Well, I wanted to thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
And no doubt we'll have you back on the show again soon.
Thank you.
And if you have got any questions about what's going on in the market and you want some clarity, then do please reach out to us. We have a lot of resources and we collaborate with a lot of professionals in the market who'll be able to help you.
Thanks for listening to the London Property Podcast. If you'd like guidance on managing, protecting, or growing your property wealth, get in touch. We're here to help. And if this episode proved valuable, share it with someone who takes the market seriously and make sure you're following so you never miss an update.